Good evening, everyone. Good evening, lovely students of the Salvan schools. I'm Sushil Salvan. I'm sure you would have known me by now, and I've been interacting with you in some forums, either some school functions or meeting you personally, trying to take your aims and objects forward to the principals. And today we are in a lovely gathering of people who have been able to, not, I wouldn't say reach the level of great success, but people who have worked and they've seen life, they've seen struggle. So with us, we have a lovely panel, and let me also introduce my co-host, Ma'am Seema Malik. So the students of the Salvan Public School, Mayur, I'm sure you will recognize her as she's your principal. And for the others, you would have surely met her in some forum. We have Mr. Shrikant Shastri, who is an amazing human being, a person who has such a versatile experience. Uh, he is an engineer. He did his IIT from Kanpur in chemical engineering. And thereafter, guess what? He did his MBA. And then, well, sky was the limit for him. So Mr. Shrikant is a certified independent director. He has successfully executed a lot of projects, not only pertaining to this country, but also global projects. He has built and sold 2 large services ventures in India and Southeast Asia. Fantastic plethora of achievement he has, and I'm running short of words because I think I'll possibly overtake and take more time than what has been allocated to me. Mr. Shrikant, welcome to our webinar, and I'm so happy that you're with us.
Thank you, Sushilji.
It's a matter of delight that a person like you is going to be mentoring our students. So before I call upon you to address these students and obviously share your great experience, am I correct to say that right now you are the chairman of IIM Calcutta Innovation Park, and you're also the chairman of 13G Advisory Network? So when you are discussing about your career, so please do tell us about these great profiles you're holding now, and what actually inspired you to change from a pure field of science to a field of entrepreneurship. Thank you, Mr. Shrikant.
Thank you. Thank you, Sushilji. I'd like to thank Major General Sanjay Agarwal and Mr. Seema Malik for inviting me. Pleasure to be on the panel with Dr. Rupa Salvan and Bharat Salhotra as well. I just want to start by quickly sharing a small story. I grew up in a small town which was 50 kilometers outside Mumbai. And so when I finished my class 10 in CBSE, I went to do my class 11 in Mumbai in a college. And I lived with my grandparents. And my grandfather would pull out the newspaper in the morning and look at the CBSE results. And I distinctly remember for several years, he would tell me, Salvan Public School, Delhi has the best results, and that is what you should try and emulate. I've never had a chance to interact with all of you, but I must tell you it's a privilege because it goes back to very old nostalgic memories for me for what my grandfather told me. So it's indeed a privilege. Salvan Public School for me was newspaper headlines, and today I'm delighted to be talking before a live audience. So let me talk a bit about my journey and how I made my career choices, how I made my life choices. Now, when we were growing up in the 70s, like any middle-class family, there were 3 choices for children: engineering, medicine, or chartered accountancy. Now, for me, it was a process of elimination. मुझे खून से बहुत डर लगता था, so there was no chance I could become a doctor. So I was happy to run away from dissection and all of those at colleges. So we best leave that to Dr. Rupa Salvan. My father was a chartered accountant. For a variety of reasons, I said, let me not follow in this path, and that only left engineering for me. But that also happened by chance. It was one of those few years when IIT JEE entrance was allowed in class 11. So I took it. There were no quota classes or FITGE in those days. So our college professors taught us something. I took a chance, did not expect to get in. Fortunately, I got in. I went to IIT Kanpur, very happy, but it used to be a 5-year course in those days. very quickly I realized at the end of 1 year that engineering was not my cup of tea. I got involved very deeply into extracurricular activities, and I realized that I should pursue a path away from pure engineering. So I applied for CAT, which is the entrance exam for IIMs, and I went to IIM Calcutta. So I realized I had found my calling. I worked for a multinational company for a few years, but very quickly I decided to set up my own business. In those days, terms like entrepreneurship, startup, etc., were not well known, but I went down that path and finally set up two businesses. So मैं ये कहूँगा मैं engineering से भाग गया, लेकिन but life has a full way of coming back full circle. In the last 7 or 8 years, I've got deeply involved in mentoring young businesses which are deeply technology. So biotech, artificial intelligence, I've got back deep into those areas. मैं उन बच्चों से कहता हूँ कि ये मेरा प्रायश्चित है. That because I ran away from engineering, I was destined to come back and mentor startups which are deeply technology. So that is broadly my life journey. It has been an exciting journey to be an entrepreneur. What I'd like to tell the students of Salvan Public School is that I wish I was your age and in class 11 or 12 now. Why do I say that? Because there are so many exciting opportunities for science students today, unlike when we were growing up. You have things like digital, artificial intelligence, IoT, biotech, blockchain. None of these existed. And the fact that these exist mean there are so many more career opportunities for all of you. Now, for each one of you, you have an option to become a specialist in one of these areas. If you become a specialist, you will be a very valued person. Or on the other hand, you could choose to be a generalist in a company. You could work for a company, but have working knowledge of some of these areas. You could do your own business, but a working knowledge of these areas. Bottom line is you have opportunities everywhere. And I'd like to give you two examples of young people I've mentored and met in recent times who are both science background students. One of them is a PhD in biosciences. This lady has created a portable device for early detection of breast cancer. So she's using her specialist knowledge of having done a PhD in a science area, but doing something so useful for society. On the other hand, there is a businessman who's using his knowledge of environmental engineering to do waste recycling in Pune and Bangalore. So he's a businessman, but still using his knowledge of environmental engineering. So I meet so many exciting entrepreneurs who all come from a science background. Some may have done only BSc, some may have done BTech, some may have done PhD, but they're using it so vastly to make social impact and run successful businesses. So I'd like to leave the students with just 3 messages today. One, unlike our time, you have many, many more opportunities. So please pursue wherever your heart takes you. Your parents will have views, your friends will have views, but it is finally your heart that should decide. Look at where your capabilities are and pursue your dream. That's message number 1. Message number 2 is, while it's very attractive to say, I want to join the IAS or take up a multinational job, but please consider becoming an entrepreneur rather than taking up a job. India needs entrepreneurs who can create jobs. Finally, the final piece of advice is, no matter what you choose to do, please try and learn coding or programming, as it is called. Doesn't matter what you eventually do. Coding or programming is an essential skill for the world ahead. Those are the 3 messages I'd like to leave for the children. And once again, thank you for having me here today.
Mr. Srikanth, thank you so much. So as I understand, what you mentioned was that to succeed, you have to be different, you have to be daring, and then you have to be there first. Is that right?
That's right, absolutely.
So would you just elaborate on this? And I just want you to make our students understand that how come with the science background, you went for your MBA, and how come so many engineers are now turning into business people and then doing extremely well? So is there focus more towards achievement side and less of finances, or it's both?
So engineering is to me, a basic discipline that you learn. You learn to do structured problem solving. You learn to be analytical in your thinking. You certainly learn other technical skills. If you're a civil engineer, you learn how to build buildings and bridges. If you're a chemical engineer, you learn how to run a refinery, and so on and so forth. But a lot of people who are not instinctively designed to work with machines, I'm not, for example, I prefer to go and do something else where I can use my core skills of problem solving, being analytical to solve bigger business problems. So it's a very natural progression. It's not just in India, it's across the world. You will see many MBAs coming from a background which is an engineering background. It's true for Bharat as well here. I've seen this, my children have done MBA in the US and they have classmates who come from an engineering background. So you see it all over. Engineering is a basic discipline that stands you in good stead, no matter what you choose to do subsequently.
Mr. Srikanth, you think that a child, after doing his engineering from his basics, his graduation, like IIT from India, should go abroad for higher education? Or you feel that our system is strong enough to make them global leaders?
Yeah. So when I was growing up and did my engineering, I finished engineering in 1983. 80% of my classmates went abroad because there were not enough opportunities in India then. So they all went for higher studies. Only 20% stayed back. Now the ratio is reverse. There are so many opportunities in India. India is an economy that's growing. Leave aside COVID for the moment. 80% of students find opportunities in India. Some of them may choose to go for higher studies after 4 years or 5 years, but that's still a minority. People find opportunities in India, and I think they're making great contribution to the Indian economy and society.
Srikanth, you have been focusing a lot on artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, and biotech as far as the present generation is concerned. Are you giving very specific emphasis on this for specific reasons?
Yeah. So I think artificial intelligence basically multiplies human capacity. In the past, we were limited by how fast our brain could work. Now, computers have the ability to think many times faster than the human brain. And that is essentially what artificial intelligence means. And therefore, you can deploy that to improve everything around you. You can improve use that to improve medical diagnosis, and Dr. Salwan would relate to that. You can help that to improve the functioning of machineries in factories. You can help that to improve the performance of a train or a car. And therefore, artificial intelligence increases human potential. On the other hand, Internet of Things, again, is wonderful because every object suddenly becomes intelligent. You can say, I know when this machine is going to fail. I can predict that in advance, thanks to Internet of Things. So I think these are wonderful things that technology advancement has given us, and which is why I advocate that for science students and engineering students, no matter what you do, please take courses outside your core curriculum. You may go to one of these online courses like Coursera, learn it. I have, for example, just a few years ago, even at my age, gone and done technical courses on Coursera because it just keeps your mind alive, it keeps your mind fresh. And therefore, that is what I would encourage every student to do, to keep your eyes and ears open, be relevant to what tomorrow's society needs, and don't get obsolete.
So, Mr. Srikanth, it seems that the science subject is so relevant, and especially what I understand from you is that the focus of the students is going to be more on computer science rather than mechanical engineering or chemical engineering, because that may soon be taken over by artificial intelligence?
Not really. I would say every kind of engineering is important. If you look at today how a treatment or vaccine to COVID will be found, that cannot be found by computer scientists alone. It will be found by bioscientists, chemists, chemical engineers. But artificial intelligence is a tool that they will use. So computer science is pervading everything, but it cannot replace other forms of engineering, which is why I would strongly recommend that everyone, irrespective of which discipline of science or engineering you decide to pursue, you must learn some of these things. I have an uncle who's a doctor, he's close to retirement, He works for Hinduja Hospital in Bombay. He is learning machine learning at this age because he says there's so much happening in medical literature now. I need to learn machine learning to be able to absorb it. So to me, it's a core skill for tomorrow's world, actually.
Mr. Shrikant, there's a question from a child of class 12D, Shringesh, and the question is that COVID-19 pandemic has brought unprecedented challenges to the world and has adversely affected our economy. How should schools change their approach to keep up with the demands of the market forces in the near future?
Shringesh, thank you for your question. Obviously, it is not even once in a generation event. It's once in 3 generations events. I don't think my parents or grandparents also would have seen something like COVID. I think all of us are coping as well as we can. Schools have moved to imparting online education. Some of these things will get back to normal by the end of the year. But I think there's a side benefit. Because of this, all of us are becoming more digitally savvy. And that can only be for the good. I also think there will be other big benefits. Because of COVID, suddenly medical technologies, biotechnologies, all of them will become so important. It will lead to so many opportunities for businesses and jobs. So every crisis presents an opportunity, and I would like to look at this as an opportunity. It's a problem that we are faced with. We should learn to live with it, smile, take it head on, but look at the opportunities actually.
Mr. Shrikant, that's lovely, but I must tell you there are a volley of questions which I'm just loaded with, so I'm just going to confine to 2 more questions because of the time schedule. Okay, now, the very interesting question which has been put up by one of the students. Sir, how do you think we can increase creativity and out-of-the-box thinking in today's generation?
Right. No, I think this is a great question. Creativity is something, if you remember, creativity is not a science, right? You need to have a calm mind. You need to, that is one. Creativity comes when you're not stressed out. The other thing is you need to read, observe, watch movies, listen to music, read as much as you can. Creativity happens when you have so many pieces of the puzzle in your mind. And suddenly one day you say, Eureka, I get one idea from something I've read, one idea from a movie I've seen, one idea from something I've seen on YouTube. You suddenly connect the dots and a beautiful picture emerges before you. That's how creativity happens. So creativity happens when you open up your mind and absorb as much as you can, meet people, talk to people, read, watch movies, listen to music. That's how creativity happens.
Oh, that's great. Okay, Shrikant ji, don't mind another question. This child is insisting that this question should be put to you. Do you think that foreign colleges are better than the Indian colleges? And what would be the advantage of going for foreign colleges?
So I think foreign colleges are good because they take you away from your parents. I'll be very honest from you. India में रह के पढ़ाई करते हैं, you stay at home, your parents are watching over you, you never learn to be independent. The single biggest advantage of going to a foreign college is the experience of living independently on a university campus. Second advantage is you get exposed to a globally diverse community of students. Delhi mein reh ke, you're exposed to the same set of friends, similar family circles, etc. So your mind doesn't open up. To me, that would be the single biggest reason to go, and you build a network of friends that will stay with you for the rest of your life.
Okay, great. Shrikant, I just want to put a proposition to you now. God answers our prayers in 3 ways. He says yes and gives you what you want. He says no and gives you something better. He says wait and gives you the best in his own time. So what happened in your career?
I believe in God. बट आई ऑल्सो बिलीव कि अगर आप कुछ चाहते हैं दिल से तो मेहनत करनी पड़ती है. अगर आप मेहनत करके उस रास्ते पे जाते हैं तो आपको वो मिल जाता है. So I don't know whether it's one of these 3 options or a 4th one I've created.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Thank you, Shrikant ji, and we will be back with you soon. Ma'am Malik, Mr. Bharat Salotra's interaction with you now.
Thank you so much. It was indeed enlightening to hear from Mr. Shrikant. We have another panelist for all of us, all students and all people who are there with us, and that is Mr. Bharat Talhotra. When I had a conversation with him in the morning, I thought one word which kept coming again and again in the conversation was sustainability. Sustainability might be the 21st century word, but for Mr. Bharat Salhotra, it's been there for more than 20 years. After doing his graduation in engineering, to go to Calcutta IIM to do MBA, and then to be an MIT Sloan Fellow, it's no mean feat. So let us welcome Mr. Bharat Salhotra and listen from him about how, after working at Alstom and then now at Ronmers as managing director, how much he has covered in the field of sustainability, hardcore engineering that he is very passionate about, and how design capability can be enhanced for all of us. And we have a lot of students who would be interested in knowing from you, Mr. Salhotra. All yours.
Thank you, Seema ji, and I'm delighted to be here and talking to the youngsters. Really, you get a chance to talk to youngsters, and I was looking forward to this moment. Would have been nice if you could have a face-to-face, but in the COVID situation, वो possible नहीं है. Hopefully, when things get better, maybe Salwan and all of you will give us an opportunity to come over and meet the youngsters and also get energized ourselves and feel younger. So, of course, sustainability is an important piece, but I just, like Srikanth, in many ways, Srikanth and my journey has been somewhat similar. Of course, he reached his destination of entrepreneurship maybe 25 years ahead of me. I'm still following up on it because I started my career with the civil services and I spent about 26 years with the government in different capacities, I would say about 18 years with the Indian Railways, couple of years with the Planning Commission, about 3 years with the World Bank. And in all of this, I was in fact doing things that I was not supposed to do. Meaning that, I'm from the Indian Railway Accounts Service, but I never really understood accounts ever. I still don't. I was always interested and I always picked up areas which were a little bit out of the box. So for example, I remember in the middle of the night at about 2 a.m., us establishing the first local area network in India for the Indian Railways sometime in 1989. You know, I don't know, the children may not relate to this, but उस ज़माने में कोई memory stick तो होती नहीं थी. उस ज़माने में बड़े-बड़े like the tawa, you know, those size floppy disks used to be there, and data used to be transported from all over the stations to one destination. Data used to come in sack loads. बोरियां भर-भर के आती थी और वो सब data उसकी data entry होती थी data entry machines के ऊपर. तो 24/7 data entry machines चलती थी. उसके बाद program चलते थे. The memory of the computer used to be something like 2 kilobytes. That was the size of the memory at that point of time. अभी हम K की तो बात ही नहीं करते हैं. आजकल तो हम गीगा से कम, टेरा से कम बात नहीं करते हैं. So from those days, I remember that great experience of setting up the first local area network on Indian Railways and of course many other developments in the using again computers and technology. So in all of this, I think I was responding to one question जो आपने किसी student ने पूछा है about how to get out of the box thinking. And उसका वही है कि once you get into a problem, once you start to deep dive into a problem and really spend time with the problem, I think उसी से ही आपको inspiration मिलता है to come up with something new and something that different. So after spending time in the civil services, I decided to move to the corporate sector, and I spent about 7 years with Alstom. We grew the company exponentially, you know, from something like 2 engineers in the rolling stock to about 1,700 engineers. We also grew the company from about 600 crores to 42,000 crores. So much so that the president of the company, who used to sit in Paris, said, you know, maybe it's time to move ourselves lock, stock, and barrel to India because there is so much happening in India. And all of this was predominantly achieved basically with Indian engineers. And that brings me to the subject of engineering, because what I'm getting very passionate about currently now in the work that we are trying to do is, my entire years of experience, what I've noticed is that हम लोगों को ऑलमोस्ट शर्म आती थी जब हम बड़े हो रहे थे कि मैंने इंजीनियर हूँ. MBA has a different touch and feel. When you say you are an MBA, उसका जो impact आता है, and you say I'm MBA from IIM, उसका impact बड़ा different है. Similarly, when you say I'm an IAS or I'm in the civil services, उसका impact बड़ा different है. But again, life has come again full circle, and I'm starting to feel that one of the biggest shortfalls we have today in India is our engineering brains, engineering minds. Because
Yes.
even if you look at large companies like NTPC, BHEL, which have been around for so many years, or we look at Indian Railway, even, Hamari ability to design and engineer solutions has been so limited, so restricted. We are okay in manufacturing. Manufacturing, तो हम कर लेते हैं. Manufacturing, of course, requires a design to be handed over to the people on the production floor, and then that we are okay at. But our engineering design capabilities are really in short supply. So since all of you students are now getting into engineering, I would really, push all of you and suggest that, stick to engineering. Don't down a full circle like Srikanth did and I also did. And we came back ultimately to come back to the feeling that India mein engineering ka capabilities, opportunities बहुत ज़्यादा हैं. So we have to move and build our engineering competencies, and that's how we will grow as a nation. Of all the professions in the world, if there's one profession that has really impacted the lives of people and changed man from the prehistoric era to current times, it is our engineering design capability. Even medicine has so much of engineering today. So engineering is a very important, and engineering, which again a part of larger sciences, is a very important piece. So as you build your careers, there's one key learning which I had, and it came under very difficult circumstances. When we all grow up in our schools and even in the undergrad, we underestimate the importance of working together in teams. And this is a malaise, I think, that we still continue to feel even today in India. And yet, there is nothing you can achieve alone. There is nothing, practically nothing. Even if you have to get into if you want to get into an IIM or an IIT, you have to make sure that the email that you prepare is sent through a server to the destination. You have to make sure that the postman है वो ठीक जगह पहुंचाता है चिट्ठी, तभी आपका next steps होते हैं. So there are so many people, known and unknown, visible and not visible, who contribute to your success. And the most important part in any success story is how well you're able to work together in teams, how you develop the soft skills. So I would very strongly urge all of you to be sensitized, to be sensitive to the importance of working together in teams and delivering the best that you can, because otherwise you just cannot deliver anything. And I learned it the hard way, because हमारी जो education system था, और I don't know, Savan साहब अभी भी शायद वैसे ही होगा. Most of our education is driven on individual performance, individual grades, individual marks. Team working हम लोगों का बहुत कम opportunities होती हैं. कभी-कभी project मिलते हैं, उसमें अगर 5 लोग हैं टीम में, तो एक को बोल देते हैं यार तू काम कर ले, हम जरा क्रिकेट खेलने जा रहे हैं या हम जो भी कर रहे हैं. So working together.
Students would be very interested. Students would be very interested also to know that after doing BE from Punjab University, so what made you go to Calcutta IIM? So what was it that it was a major jump of a change of trajectory? So what motivated you to do that?
Yeah, so
after that you went to MIT Sloan. So it all kind of, these are different pieces which we would like to understand by joining them together.
Yeah, so once again, as Srikanth very nicely explained, हमारे ज़माने में there were only 3 professions: engineering, medicine, and for me the CA, because he was in Mumbai, so CA वहाँ पे ज़्यादा prevalent था. हमारे north में, I was born in Simla, and for us it was engineering, medicine, or IAS or civil services. And I got pushed into engineering. To be honest, I never thought I had a penchant or a liking for engineering. Of course, as a good student, you always end up doing very well in whatever you do. But frankly, I discovered again, like Srikanth, that engineering में बात बन नहीं, number तो आ रहे हैं, but वो बात बन नहीं रही है. And I don't blame. I think to some extent I blame our education system also for the way we continue to design our courses in engineering colleges in India. I hope something has changed now, but at least in those times, the push was not so much on developing new things. The push was on more on what has already been done. There was no focus on innovation, on new projects, on working together to build something new. And as I said, at least in those days, engineering was a little bit number two to an MBA program, So, and IIMS was on everybody's wish list. So again, I must confess, even in MBA, I don't think I really understood what management is, because to understand management, you really need to spend some years to work.
So we see here
outside,
in Mr.
and then you understand what really is working together in team.
So Mr. Salotra, we not only see an engineer here, we also look at a manager for the Asia Pacific region and also an academic, because the research papers that you've written, which have been published in the leading journals and way back in 2000, early 2000s, that clearly indicates that you have a very vast repertoire of interests. So your interest in engineering, design, management, to lead an organization, a country, and to market it to the Asia Pacific region. I mean, it's like an amalgamation of a lot of interests. So would you, how would you be able to tell our students that in these times when it is so strenuous to get admission in the leading institutes like IITs and IIMs, what can they do to prepare themselves very well for that?
I think for all the young students, I think your vision should not be to get into IIT. Your vision should not be to get into IIM. I think you need to first look at what is it that you really want to do. I mean, and to decide what you want to do, it's not just about passion, because even Hitler was very passionate. I mean, the passion has to come from a holy discontent in you. What is it that gives you that discontent? Is that discontent about the environment? Is that discontent about the pollution? Is that a discontent about poverty? Is that a discontent about the way the country is being, about the political aspect of how the country is being run? Is it about engineering? Could something better evolve? So you have to look at what gives you that discontent, and it has to be wholly discontent, meaning that it should be on a way to contribute to society.
So sir, what you just talked about a political conflict, one of the students wants to know that in the present context where we have the trade wars between America and China and India and China, do you really think it is going to have a lot of impact on us, particularly the field of engineering or management? Would it be affecting us?
I think it will be, my view is that, all this COVID crisis and whatever we are going through with the trade wars and all is actually extremely positive for India, because India has so much of low hanging fruit, number one. Number two, India affords so many opportunities. And so the time to capture those opportunities is now. And all the youngsters today I'm sure you already, all the youngsters should be looking at hundreds of opportunities, hundreds of possibilities that exist today. It is for you children to figure out which of those 1,000 opportunities you want to pick up. Because, it's like the world is at your feet. It's for you to decide what you want to capture. And I think, passion comes based on, once you start to deep dive into something, you'll start to like it. I had a professor at MIT who used to say, I once went up to him and said, I don't find this interesting. He said, you don't find it interesting because you've not deep dive enough into it. And once you start to deep dive into things, you will start to discover what is it that really gives you the kick? What is it that really drives you? And
Mr.
remember,
please give me the opportunity to thank you for your words of wisdom. I'm sure that many of us will be inspired to motivate our students to go into design, into engineering, into management, and have you. And I really thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you very much.
thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Salotra, thank you so much. But let me just tell you, there is a it's not a question. In fact, there is a response from one of the students. And the response is, sir, you are very inspiring. So compliments to you, Mr. Salotra. Not that Mr. Shrikant didn't get these compliments. He was also loaded with a lot of compliments. But he said that because of paucity of time, I couldn't possibly mention all. There's just one aspect, Mr. Salotra, if you could just emphasize upon. Now the child is saying that, sir, I want to ask that how did you keep your enthusiasm up? As being a JEE aspirant, I lose my hope and it costs me a lot of time and disturbs my time management. So please help me find a solution.
Yeah, so, I can even, we can talk about offline, I mean, that you can give the number to the student, but there is one important thing, whenever you are pursuing something, you should envision success. You should, if you are preparing for IIT, you should actually imagine yourself sitting in an IIT Delhi class, attending the first lecture. Negativity saps your energy. Positivity drives your energy. And all of us, and even the new children go through failures is a great learning tool. And the way to success, whether it is IIT or IIM or entrepreneurship, it's not a straight line. It goes like the Simla Kalka highway, up and down, up and down, up and down. And once you're prepared for that, success will ultimately happen. So, keep focusing on your end result. And when you want to focus on your end result, it's not you looking from where you are today to where you want to be. Success will happen when you start looking backwards from where you want to be to where you are. It's a reverse direction. So imagine yourself, if you're objectively and you're prodding yourself today that yes, it's just a few steps more to get to where I want to be. So it's a reverse.
To sum up, basically what you're saying is many people have a good aim in life, but only some have reasons to pull the trigger. So is that what you're possibly also telling the students? Am I right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, but I'm going to be back with you because there are still a lot of questions. So can I just take leave from you for a minute, for about 10 minutes? And Dr. Rupa, thank you so much for joining us. Dr. Rupa is an MBBS graduate from Maulana Azad Medical College. She did her MD in medicine from Maulana Azad and LNJP Hospital. In the year 1993, she did her DM cardiology from GB Pant Hospital, Delhi University in 1996. And thereafter, in 2012, she did her executive education course on managing healthcare delivery from Harvard Business School. Dr. Rupa also has various honors besides General D.R. Thapar Gold Medal, PM Burgess Award, and also she has been given the Sunday Standard Award of Devi by for her professional contribution. Dr. Rupa, thank you so much. And I also noticed, Dr. Rupa, that you are an intervention cardiologist with expertise in acute heart attack, interventions, complex coronary interventions, structural heart disease, transcatheter, aortic valve implantation, special interest in ethics, quality, and patient. Wow, that's absolutely, absolutely great. Dr. Rupa, before you address these students, just a couple of questions. Now, you did your MD and DM post-marriage. Am I right? Yeah. So tell me, as a lady, how were you able to face so much of struggle and challenges that you had a family, and then again you were pursuing your DM medicine and MD medicine, and thereafter DM cardiology? Because this is very important for the girl students of our schools, especially girls all over this country, that you pursue a career which is so tough, and that also like cardiology. So, Dr. Rupa,
Yeah, so thank you very much. I give you kids a little background. See, my father served in the army. In fact, he was fighting the 65 war when I was born. And even the army hospital was bombed, and my mom ran into. That's how life started. The army kid. I think we need to mute ma'am's computer.
Mrs. Malik, would you please mute yourself, please? There's a lot of disturbance. Mrs. Malik. Sorry, Dr.
So like I mean, I have studied in 10 schools. You know, I studied in small schools, and in all small cities, we went to convents. That's where the girls went, and the boys went to Vidyalaya. So with my dad, I changed 10 schools. I studied in Simla, in a small school called Chalet, which you may know at that time because I was younger at that time. Jammu during the 71 war. So you have it. So we were quite comfortable with backpack and moving. And every school meant a new syllabus, new friends, some by English medium, some by Hindi medium. And to cut it all, at the end of it, I was in class 10 when I reached Delhi. Now, in the 70s, I don't know, kids, you know, at that time, we were seeing a lot of patients with heart attack. I think I was 6 years old when a friend of ours, his father died of a heart attack. He was just swimming in a pool and he had a heart attack and he died. And my own mama also had a heart attack and he passed away. And that was a time when we had no healthcare facilities in our country. And most of the people we knew were going to Houston. In fact, Dr. Denton Cooley was a very famous surgeon. And people used to go to America and they used to get operated and they used to come back. Angioplasty didn't exist at that time. It was all bypass. And I used to just wonder as a kid that what a country, we have so many of us and nobody has the guts to go and learn surgery. Nobody wants to serve this country. So what really drove me was I will train and I will train to be the toughest cardiac surgeon and I will serve this country. And that's what got me going. And, you know, my father was worried that it's a life of hardship. I don't just do dental and have an easier life. And that was not for me. So what was said by the earlier persons is right. You know, you can't, so, you know, coming to Delhi public school after studying in small cities is very scary. I mean, Delhi is a big, bad world, you know. And on top of that, your principal throws you into the ability section. I mean, you're just worried about surviving ability, to dur ki baat hai. It was a horrible culture at that time. And what they're saying is, yes, that one-upmanship, and you only were competing, you know, it was hardly anything. So in those 2 years of my college school life, I did see very intense competition. And it went into college because even Maulana Azad Medical College is a very, very competitive college. But what is there is, you know, you have to see that one seat you want. So when I was doing with the competitions, I wasn't seeing the thousands of students appearing and where will I get college? I wanted to study in Delhi, so AIIMS, and my father being in the army, I kept AFMC as a choice. So I didn't apply to 20 colleges, pata nahi kahan jaungi. यार एक सीट चाहिए वो कहीं भी मिल जाएगी AFMC मिल जाएगा AIIMS is a lottery but otherwise Delhi that's good enough. So if you keep your focus fine, you know, you're working. And then again in school it was not possible to go do the, you know, we had brilliant tutorials for MBBS at that time. So I focused on my 12th, and after that I took the competitive, you know, coaching classes. And yes, I only saw that one seat I needed, so I made it to Maulana Azad Medical College. And college was a whirlwind. So college again, I'm the only doctor in my family from both sides. So, you know, but there's nobody telling you, and there are a lot of kids who are doctors' kids, and you know, they get it easy. And that was not a time of digital. We had to go to libraries. You reached the library, the books were torn, the pages you needed were gone, books were not so freely available. But it got out a lot in us. And when we worked in you ever go to Irvine Hospital, I will want you to go. We serve the poorest of the poor there. It's regular, you know, 3 people on a bed, and if one patient dies, they just say, oh, remove that, you know, let's 2 of us be comfortable. It's normal. I mean, I'm talking of 30 years ago. We've served the poorest of the poor. And the place runs on your passion. So we would just give our lives to save patients. So, you know, you got a skill where you were treating people, even you didn't have labs, you didn't have an ultrasound, you didn't have x-rays, but you had clinical skills, you had a heart to serve, and you knew that, I mean, it was you or nobody. And miracles happen. I mean, believe me, you have to experience them to know that miracles happen, and you are there and you're doing that. And as I told you, I wanted to be a cardiac surgeon, and I was not going to marry a green card just to go to the US. So I was going to make it my own. So the path would have been, those days we didn't get green cards, so I was planning to do an MRCP in England and then find my way to the US. And I did my house jobs in cardiology and medicine at that time. But then, I fell in love with my husband and we chose to get married, and everything had turned around and I was going to be back in this country. And that was a time when even cardiology was growing. And I realized that, to be a cardiac surgeon, to do general surgery and that, I mean, I could have all the benefits of surgery, treating a cardiac patient and not having to do surgery and custody at the same time. And everything I practice today, believe me, we did nothing in medical school or MD at that time. Everything has grown along. So you end up being lifelong learners, and nothing comes straight. And medicine is one line where you learn failures early and you learn to pick yourself up and get up and go and work. There is no question about that. You can put your heart into your patient. You will still die, but that doesn't mean you did the wrong thing. And it gets in you somewhere to, find the newer thing. So I was fortunate at the time when I studied at GB Pant. We had a very good college. Escorts didn't exist at that time. We had a fantastic director of the hospital and we had fun and we were the first in everything there. But by the time I finished my DM, so MD and DM were a lot of hard work. I mean, I delivered my daughter just a week after I took my MD entrance. But again, I believe you work hard, God is there. Yes, there's a huge luck. I did work hard, but so do many other children. But I was very fortunate to get my MD and my DM in the first attempt. And then it's hard work, so there's no shortage. I mean, I don't know how it went. And looking back, I don't know. I mean, I don't even think I was capable of so much hard work. And believe me, people don't give it easy to you. In medicine, the practice of medicine is gender neutral. It's not that I'm a girl and I'll have to work less or something. I have to work 10 times more with the guys. I mean, they were taking more leaves for their wives' problems than I was getting for, doing everything else. Yes, it's a mean world. Yes, people are nasty. Yes, they are not comfortable seeing you grow. And the rule was straight. Eklavya ki kahani suni hai. So you're good till you're assisting the doctors, the seniors, the men, and they're very uncomfortable when you're doing it alone. They don't want to see you independent. And so even in cardiology, there's shades. So pediatric cardiology or EP, which is not so, in the oven, were given easier to women. Of course, everything in cardiology is hard, but the hardcore intervention was not happening. So I was basically driven when a patient has a heart attack, you need to, so as in Pant and government, I realized you're cutting too many corners. Yeah, you're managing with very little, but I wouldn't want to be the patient there. I want my doctor to have what he wants and give me the best. And that's when I moved to Escorts Heart Institute. And a few years down, Escorts, 6 or 7 years, I, left to start Max. I mean, I was the first doctor on site in 2004. And it was a dream chance because before corporate really happened, we had a chance to make the hospital the way we wanted. And to me, acute heart attack care had evolved where we were doing angioplasties in a heart attack. So if you open the artery up and get the flows back within an hour, the patient just feels his heart is not damaged. He leads a normal life. He gets back to, I'm talking of way back 2004. When we started Max, in fact, we didn't have corporate, didn't exist at that time. They just got us doctors and said, yeah, chala do hospital kisi tarike se. So we would take patients to cath lab without admission, without any money being deposited. And we do the procedures, and believe me, the lives we've saved, it's been just a phenomenal journey. And nobody questioned it. So even today, these are not things to advertise or talk about, but it's an unwritten rule where you don't need to worry. You reach my hospital, yes, there's a whole system that runs. And what has been said by the earlier speakers, individual excellence doesn't matter beyond a point if the system doesn't work. So it doesn't matter that, Dr. Rupa, you may be good, but when you are not there, what's going to happen? So it's going to happen for every time, round the clock, for every patient who comes there and whoever is working. That's the system. And in fact, that's the time when my daughter, finished, we were a little scared as parents. We didn't send her to the US as an undergrad. And I said, go for your MBA. And she said, Mom, you should be going. In fact, she inspired me to go to Harvard. And it was for the first time I felt I was in a college, because most of what we did in India was self-training, self-learning. You survive despite the odds. Nobody told you what to do. They just threw you into the fire and you were finding out what to do. But there you were being actually taught, and we just realized our destinies are so similar. The problems are similar. It's not that their hospitals have different problems from ours. And as the two engineers have said earlier, in these 20 years, I've seen technology evolve. The way our stents have become good, the delivery, the equipment, the everything, the cath lab, technology has grown side by side. The drugs have improved. So today, individual skill has become less. You skill up faster, but the delivery of healthcare, where more people are doing things and it is system bound, is a challenge. And yeah, nothing comes straight. There's a struggle. And yes, it's tough. It's a man's world. Nobody likes, a lady with a thought, mind of her own, standing there and speaking. But who cares? I mean, you do your work and you look after your patient, and it's fine. I mean, there's so much satisfaction, and you're growing. There's no end to your growing. You're a lifelong learner. So I think it's a beautiful journey, and you don't. I mean, yeah, you can be cutting edge on top of the game, but there's so many parts of medicine. There's nursing, there's physiotherapy, there's biotechnology, there's now digital solutions. So all hospitals are getting, electronic based. You have electronic health records. Now today you're doing digital consults. So it's endless. Healthcare is a great industry to be in. And I would say that it's a very good life. And most important thing is, don't set these, you never arrive. And life is not a destination, it's a journey. So as long as you're a lifelong learner and you're willing to, not cast yourself enough, and down the line you grow. So, as a kid, angioplasty didn't exist, you didn't have that dream. But yeah, as it came along, you learned the things and you moved along. And from angioplasty today to doing, changing valves without surgery, it is so satisfying. You see these older patients, 80, 85, people are living longer. And to not have a sternotomy, to not have a cut, to through a stent, to be able to change a valve, it's phenomenal. It is so satisfying to have your patient go home, yes, and live their lives as well as they can. So I would just say that please don't look at medicine for just the money and just involved. So most of my friends who went to the US, they've earned their money, they've retired. And yes, if my pay home check would be nothing, but the satisfaction out of my life is huge, and I'd trade it for nothing. So staying back in India comes at a cost, but everything is not about the money you earn. It's about the journey. It's about the life you lead. And I'd really, please don't. Unfortunately, Delhi is a horrible place in that way, because you have either the bureaucrats, politicians, very entitled lot, or some very affluent people. That's not life. There's so much to us, and that's just a little superficial layer you see. That's not life. Please make your lives, value them, and just respect the journey you do. There is no other way. And believe me, there's so many of us who've done it. You have to just look around. There's enough inspiration, and write your own stories. It's so much nicer, So I really would want you all to think of medicine more for what it is and how much you can give back to society. Please don't measure it in the money you earn. It may not be as much as you want. It's a long journey, but it's such a happy, satisfying journey. So please do come back to medicine. Everything, yes, engineering, science, those of you who have the aptitude and the willingness to sacrifice, please take it. It's a beautiful life to live, and you're blessed to be in this profession.
Thank you, Dr. Rupa. That's very interesting. And Tanya Kapoor is posing a question to you, Dr. Rupa. Having worked as a cardiologist for over 2 decades, were there times when you felt panic-stricken or demotivated? And if yes, how did you cope up with the situation?
Demotivation doesn't happen. The world can pull you down, but when between you and your patients, the biggest thing I tell you is be aligned to the laws of nature. Be aligned to the life forces. We try to understand life the way it is and practice that for our patients. So if your patient is fine and you're fine and you've given the best, it doesn't matter how people treat you. What's the question of being demotivated? If you place yourself in that ladder and where you are and how people treated you, you'll be unhappy whatever you do. And demotivation, the question doesn't arise. It's absolutely not. People can be nasty, but that's because they don't know any better. You keep doing what you are good at, and it's fine. You don't look around. The biggest thing that's kept me going through all these small schools and everything is, compete with yourself and be a better version of yourself and live your life. And that's the journey that's, makes you happy. It makes me happy. And I just say it's a way, and looking back 30 years now, 35 years, all close to 40 years out of school, please, it's beautiful. It's the best way to live life. And I really want you all to do the same thing.
So, Dr. Rupa, do you feel in future what Mr. Sirikant said, that artificial intelligence is going to take huge leaps in? So do you feel like robots have come into medicine? So you feel like doctors being substituted by artificial intelligence subsequently with the innovation by Mr. Sirikant Sastry?
So I'll tell you that medicine is an imperfect science, but it is practiced as an art. And there is no substitute to the, it doesn't matter. It's not just about placing a stent in a patient. It's how you talk, how you deal with their life. And I think the biggest learning even of the COVID times is that technology is going to fall flat. Now today you're talking of immunity, you're talking of integrating your mind, body, we're talking back about Ayurveda. There's medicine hasn't reached the point to treat COVID, and a balance is needed. Yes, you need the technology, it's phenomenal. It's made so much progress when you need it, but we cannot not have our balance. So it is going to be mind, body, spirit, and there is going to be a revival of our indigenous methods where we understand what we need and not just do trendy things and get the best of the best. So the future, the way I see it, is going to be a mix of both tradition and the advancements. And there is no substitute to the art of medicine. I don't see it. I mean, it can add to what I'm doing, but there is no substitute. I mean, any of you who've been to a good doctor who looks after you, there's no substitute. You use technology, but finally you need human beings, the human strength we give each other, there's no substitute to that.
Dr. Rupa, thank you so much. And for the great panelists, I have a very short submission to make. And that would be absolutely apt for Mr. Sirikant, Mr. Salotra, and Dr. Rupa. A line knows no end unless you put a stop to it. And fortunately enough, none of you have put a stop to it, and your line is just going on and on and on. And that's really awesome. I must compliment you for that. And in the rhythm of life, we sometimes find ourselves out of tune. But as long as there are mentors, guides, and philosophers like you to provide the vision, the meaning of life will always be purposeful. Thank you, Sirikant ji, thank you, Bharat ji, and thank you, Dr. Rupa. I'm sure that our students, actually, if you honestly ask me, I am loaded with almost about 120 questions from about 250 attendees at this stage. But because of paucity of time, I don't think I'll be able to pose further questions. But give me the liberty to request the students to interact with you whenever you have time and whenever you give them the opportunity.
I think they can drop emails to each of us, and
Yes,
we'd be happy to.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Salotra.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Malik. Thank you so much.